Hi, everybody, and good evening to all. And thank you so much for joining today's session. I hope you all are safe and have taken your vaccinations. And we look forward to this webinar today, where we are going to have some very interesting learnings shared by our guest speaker. So, a quick introduction about myself and our speaker today. My name is Vimlesh, and I am the founder of User Experience. We are a SaaS product helping product teams, engineering, design, and support teams get a visibility of their end users' experience on their mobile apps. And today's session, on today's webinar, I'm sorry, we have our guest speaker, Rahul KR, who is the Senior Product Manager at Khatabook. So I'll invite Rahul to uh, give a quick introduction about himself, and we can begin from that onwards, Rahul.
Sure. Thanks, Vamlesh. Hey, everyone. Great to be here. I see 40 folks have joined, so that's encouraging. Awesome. So quickly, I'm Rahul. So I'm part of the product team at Khatabook. Joined them pretty early. Was the first PM here. It's close to 2 years now. I've been with them. Joined when the team was 30. Now it's 200 plus. So it's been a beautiful journey and building for a very interesting persona that is the Indian merchants and shopkeepers. So a lot of learnings over the last couple of years, and in general, before that, have been a serial entrepreneur and love building products in general and the impact it makes in real life. That's what keeps me going. So yeah, hope to have a fun.
Yeah, thanks, Rahul. We are also looking forward for this session. Really, thank you for this introduction, and also thank you for coming on this webinar and agreeing to share your learnings with fellow product teams, engineering teams, design teams who are part of today's webinar. So we look forward to this session. So Rahul, we could for the people who Khata Book is certainly a very, very big name when it comes to the Indian new age companies. So maybe we'd love to hear from you. What is Khata Book? What does it really do? And what are your customers really look like? That would help us all understand about the gamut of Khata Book.
Yeah, sure. So Khatabook is a very different company in the sense that all the companies I've been part of, or the products I've made so far before Khatabook, was for the audiences similar to myself. That is, say, Swiggy, Zomato, Ola, and all that. Wherein I myself am a user, right? But here the people we're building for the users, that is, as I said, shopkeepers, merchants, businessmen, women, are coming online for the first time, and they are new to the online scene and they want things to be simple. They're very conscious about every click they do. So what Khatabook does is basically Khatabook has had a very humble beginning in the sense that son of an electrical shop owner in Nanded in Maharashtra built this app for his father because he was not able to collect the dues from his customers. He was shy and he was not able to ask them again and again to pay them back the dues. So he built an app wherein he could note down the dues customer level and basically as you can see in the screen, you can add a customer, you can add the transaction wherein he's saying that hey 500 rupees ka udhar diya, and you can set a date saying that hey on so and so day remind the customer that hey you need to pay back. So this was the simple humble beginning, and organically it saw 50,000 plus business users downloaded. So this clearly shows that there was a need and that was being fulfilled by this app. So and that's how it started, and now close to 50 million businesses, 10 million plus MAU, and it's been a fascinating journey. And yeah, what Khatabook does in one line, it's a simple digital ledger wherein merchants can record their transactions and dues and send free reminders to get the dues back quicker. And that's how we started off. But obviously, the goal is to build an operating system of sort for the businessmen, for the merchants, so that anything and everything digital that is needed in their business journey on a day-to-day basis should be covered by our platform. So, and yeah, so that's about what Khatabook is. And what does a typical Khatabook user look like? So we have the best part is like users from 95% plus districts in India are using Khatabook. So it's a pure, it's actually gone down to the grassroots level, and the users look like grocery store owners, mobile shop owners, hardware, electrical shops, service agents, and things like that. So yeah, it's a pretty
Yeah, I mean, certainly, and that journey of Khata book is really very very interesting, and it solves the problem which today where the massive digital, I would say, conjunction is happening, where a lot of focus is bringing the tier 2 or tier 3 cities on board, from a digital perspective, and reaching out to those. So it's a really interesting journey, Rahul, and a massive customer base. So I do understand, Khata book is really delivering a massive gamut of, or serving a massive gamut of customers. So when we come to the product side of Khata book, which would be one of the core of your environment at Khata book and how customers are interacting, can you help us understand, on a day-to-day basis, what are the key metrics that you track, that helps you to provide better, I would say, services to your customers, improvements on your product that helps your customers achieve their business goals, and what kind of technologies or tools do you use to track those metrics on a day-to-day basis?
Yeah, sure. So, yeah, this is a pure product first company, and so the product basically is a simple app. And what the app does is, on the Khatabook app is the first one that we started off with. Now we have a suite of products wherein now we have Cashbook, Bills and GST, My Store. So I'll come to that. So basically, Khatabook, the core product, what the key actions are: user can add a customer or a supplier and add a transaction against them. So in our business, in our product, the core thing is adding a transaction. So you add an entry wherein you mention the amount, a note, and so that is adding an entry slash adding a transaction. And so that is the key basically key what do you say, action in the entire app. Now all our metrics, all our North Star revolve around it. So on a daily basis, obviously we track the DTU, weekly transacting users, monthly transacting users. So those are the hygiene ones. And in general, and the most important thing is basically obviously retention, right? Like how many, though the users have tried it, they have added customers and transactions, are they actually coming back, sticking with the app?
Yeah.
So for that, basically, and retention again is an output. So for what we basically track is the activation, engagement, and resurrection. So for the activation bit, how we at Khatabook have defined activation is basically users who have transacted, who have added at least two transactions in 2 unique days, which means a lot of people actually add transactions in 1 day and then they never come back. So we define a user who is really activated and found value in the product is the one who has added 2 transactions in 2 unique days, and this worked out pretty well for us. And so that's one key metric. And what tools we use basically on a daily basis is we use Mixpanel for the basic dashboards, on the quantitative analytics bit. Then on the qualitative analytics bit, on daily, my day starts with seeing the user Expedia dashboard, wherein I see the sessions saying that how are the users actually using the app, how do their journeys look like. So I do some sampling. I'll pick up few users and see how are they using the app, how are they using the newly launched features. So that's how the day looks like in brief, how it begins.
Okay, that's interesting. To know the kind of metrics that you track, because that really helps you to also understand how engaged the users are with your platform, and at the same time, deep diving into sessions would certainly give you a lot more insights. But to understand with while you did mention about mixed panel that you use, right? So you would be collecting a lot of these analytical data. So mixed panel is a solution, or similar solutions which are used day in and day out by product teams to understand usage and various other metrics of the application, right? The application performance and so on. But what made you really go beyond these the standard analytics? Why did you had to, let's say, go in for a solution like user experience to fetch qualitative data? So what were you really missing out of the information that you were getting from your analytics platform?
Sure, actually, that's a pretty good question in the sense that the traditional dashboards or the tools like say Mixpanel, CleverTap, and all the really good ones are very useful. We used on daily basis, and those actually show us how a product is performing, how are the users using it, and what's working, what's not. So these questions we find answers via these tools. But if you actually drill down deeper, the core of why people are using the app or what we understood how and what bit from the quantitative analytic tools, but why are people doing what they're doing? So that is not really answered by the numbers or the funnels. So for that you have to dig deeper, and either you need to speak to the customers, which is a must, you do it. But when you speak to the customer, you're not catching them in the action, right? So they might be biased, they might not give you the full picture. But when
Yeah.
you actually observe them in the action, the happy path, the drop off journey, all these sessions, when you actually notice it,
Yeah.
that's when you understand that, hey, why is that this user was not tapping here, or why did this user say spend so much time on the screen,
Yeah.
what were they confused? So when you see some videos, the session replays, it's like a eureka moment. So yeah, why did we choose this platform is because we felt because Hatabook works on first principles, and because we're solving for a new user base, a unique problem, we cannot depend on an existing solution. And for that, we need to have a very clear of thought. We need to make sure that users' pain points are really solved, and that only comes in when we are watching users in action. And then we explored the products, and we really liked the user experience, so we went ahead with. Yeah.
Thanks. I would say, thank you for choosing us. But yes, very, very really interesting points that you mentioned over here as to certain challenges that you come across while using, I would say, the quantitative analytical tools, where you do get a very good picture of what your users are really doing. But to go more deeper into, taking actions, you need to understand the why part, right? So to get the answers to the why, you need a little deep dive into the qualitative insights about your customers or your users' experiences. Right. So very, very interesting point over here. And this, in fact, Rahul, brings me to a point where I had read an interesting article which talks about zombie apps, which was, I think, so published by TechCrunch way in 2015, where they mentioned about zombie apps, basically apps which are no more visible to customers on Play Store or App Store, and because of the massive usage, massive releases of apps on these stores. And one of the key reasons which came out was that back in those days, if apps really do not adopt mobile analytics, they would really end up becoming a zombie app. And what we are seeing that now, the trend is also moving, that now mobile analytics have become, I would say, more of a must to have. It's a default. Yeah, everybody's doing it, right? Everybody is having some or the other analytics platform. But customers are also now slowly realizing that qualitative analytics is also very, very critical, because if they do not get an answer or understanding of why behind their customer actions, their apps will also go into zombie apps soon. So the cycle is also changing from traditional analytics. The cycle is now moving towards qualitative analytics, and that's where a lot of focus of organizations and customers need to be there. If not, then yeah, it's like a zombie app, we can say, that your apps might land into. That's something, an interesting article that we came across. And so Rahul, you mentioned about getting a visibility about your customers. You're trying to see what they're doing, where are they tapping. So out of these various features that come out of a qualitative analytics platform, we would love to understand from you, how are you utilizing some of these key features in your day-to-day analysis, and how are they really helping you get those kind of insights that you're looking for?
Sure. So yeah, I think User Experience offers multiple useful features which also tie up together pretty well. Which is like, first one is heat map. So what we basically do is, for so we integrated the User Experience SDK, and basically what happens is, all the sessions are passed, and we have triggered the events. So basically all the events within the app it can be used to filter the heat maps or sessions to set it up. Now, so the funnels. Now, coming to the dashboard, what we now do is, because the scale is so huge, we actually set up recording rules saying that, hey, today we want to just record these sessions and see them, because it's not practical to see millions and lakhs of sessions, right? So we say that, okay, let's do a sampling. Let's just look at 1% of the sessions throughout the day with the conditions XYZ. Like, for example, here in the slide, we can see there's a heat map, and this is one of the other products of Khatabook. This is called Cashbook. And so here the screen, what bottom two, so we have a different approach here. There's no bottom tab, similar.
Okay, I think so. We have lost Rahul due to an internet issue. I think so. He got dropped out. We just wait for Rahul to join in. Let's wait for a minute for Rahul. But some of those insights that Rahul really pointed out well in terms of for making any kind of improvements in your product, we need to get into more details as to why users behave in a certain way or why users are doing a certain interaction. Right? So when you get an answer to the why, then you know what you need to really change within your product. So it becomes very, very important for product teams to really get insights of why users behave in a certain manner. And this is what qualitative analytics basically helps. So for any product to become successful, I would say you need both. You need a quantitative analytics as well as you need qualitative analytics, because quantitative analytics will give you further more insights related to your app usage, your download patterns, your uninstalls, your overall funnels, your behavior, events, data, etc. But where do quantitative analytics tools basically then get held is where they are not able to answer the why. So let's say, for example, if you want to really understand why users drop out, that's a quantitative analytics tool will not tell you the reason why. And most of the times, we have seen in our experiences, product teams end up doing a guesstimation that we call guess to understand this could be there, this or that could be there. So sometimes we make guesstimations or try to speak with some of our customers where the data is very insufficient for us to do. So that's where it's very important for qualitative data to be present. But yeah, okay. So Rahul is there. Rahul, yeah. So I was just while I know you lost your connection, so I thought let me steal this time to talk more about qualitative analytics. Yeah.
Actually, interesting thing happened. So I had shared this link with family, and they actually logged in, and it turns out only one can join from this link. So it's again, it's a beautiful. So with digital products, the learnings are like never ending. So each day you figure out something new. Sorry.
Yes,
quickly jumping back without taking too much time. What here basically looks like is the homepage of Cashbook app, wherein the top two tabs are Cashbook and Reports tab. Bottom you see in and out buttons, wherein you can make an sale or an expense entry. Now basically I just saw a Q&A question. Someone asked me, how do you nudge the first time user to add a transaction for user in rural area who may not be tech savvy? This is a very good question actually, because and it's actually tied to the heat map. So once the user is logged in, we use a simple one-tap login via Truecaller. And once user lands inside the homepage, we have noticed if you have multiple bottom tabs or things like that, people get confused. It's like deer in front of headlight. They don't know what to do. So that's why we figured out just keep one user action per screen, and that's how it works, or else people get overwhelmed. So what we did here was have two buttons at the bottom, in and out, and have a bouncing arrow. And that animated arrow made all the difference, because now that nudged the user saying that, hey, this is where you need to tap. So that's the answer for that question. Coming back, here you notice the tappable buttons are in and out, but here you can see also on top there's a lot of clicks happening. And that's where we actually realize why we were thinking, why are people tapping on it? It's not tappable area, the cash in hand and today's balance. And when we actually went deeper, we figured out that people were not understanding what that is. That is one, they wanted more information about it. And second, they wanted to know more insights about the today's sales. And that's why, based on this insight, if you go to the next slide, we implemented the solution. That is because of this heat map. we figured out that people actually want something more when you click on this top bar. And that's when, with some user research, we figured out a bottom sheet can be shown, wherein that will have more insights about today's sales. How much was the total sale in, how much was the total expense, what's the balance, how much was the cash component in it, online component in it. So yeah, this was one interesting use case. Quickly, we can go ahead. I think I've eaten up too much time.
Yeah. No, no problem. But that's those are very interesting points, and I'm sure there were some other inputs also that would have been useful for you, like these rage clicks. Yeah.
Yeah, I can cover this. So basically,
Yeah.
very interesting learning for all the other companies who are building for the same domain is here you would, in this middle screen, you would see, you can see Dhoni image. Basically, that's a Dhoni image. And that's not tappable, right? It's just, it's an empty state, right? But people are clicking on it. People are tapping on it. So the learning, we saw this across multiple screens wherever there was a colored illustration. So that's when we figured out that all the illustrations within app or the images need to be black and white, because or else the CTA, the call to action button, is not prominent enough. So that's one good learning that came up. Yeah, we can go ahead.
Okay. Yeah. So these are some, love to hear some more examples, so that the audience would know how you are using these
Sure.
features
Sure.
around segments. So we saw the heat maps, where how you're utilizing the heat maps to understand where your users are focusing more, what are they trying to attempt, and how did you use the other data elements like session replays or segmentations available inside user experience to get more insights about your customers?
Sure. So as I said, there's so many sessions, right? Like you can't possibly see all. So what we do is, on a daily basis, recurring morning, every day, the routine begins with seeing the sampling, with seeing the sessions that have set rules for. But also, whenever we launch any new feature, what we do is basically we tweak the recording rules so that the events that now will be used for recording the sessions would be of the new feature that we have set up. For example, we're launching basically a feature called Passbook. So what here we did was, it's on AB. So we set up that for this user property, this flag, only for those users, we created a funnel saying that people who entered, basically the entire journey begins from app open, installed, to view the language screen. We offer our app in 13 plus languages. Then the login success and landing on the page Passbook tab, and the key action, which is setting up Passbook. Once they allow the SMS permission, setting up a Passbook. So that's how the funnel was created on user experience dashboard. And now basically we can click on any part of the funnel and see the sessions directly. So this is the advantage as compared to, say, any other tool, like the other quantitative tools. You'll see the funnels, you'll see the drop-offs. But now here you can dive in deeper and look at the final step person. You can see what the happy path, you can see what worked for that user. And that looks really nice. So for example, I see the final one and actually understand how much time did it take for the user to complete all the actions. Then I go back to someone who dropped off in between. So the first funnel, second, third. So someone who dropped off at second, I look at what they did and where did they drop off. So yeah, this is a pretty good example.
And how do you typically build segments? So do you also create, because you have a different variety of customers using your product, right? So how does segmentation basically enable you to understand the behavior of different customers inside our application?
Sure. So as I said, so yeah, that's an interesting question. The reason being, we offer our app in 13 plus languages, spread across India and beyond. So
Yeah.
what we basically do is, overall hygiene we have set up basically across, basically users across the app, across different app model, app versions, device models, languages, location. But feature wise, whenever we go dig deep, we also have a cut looking at app language, or we will go by device model. The reason being, like for example, this one, there's a good slide, is our app basically, because the users are so diverse, there are users with larger phones, smaller phones, good night,
Yeah.
good bandwidth, poor internet network. So we would love to see how do they actually see the screen. So basically what we do is, we set up filter out by bandwidth being low, 2G and or so. Devices, we say, okay, these are the devices we want to look for. We can actually set up that filter on dashboard. And Android OS also we can see for
Yeah.
say 10 and below, things like that.
Yeah.
And we do some sampling basis that, and that clearly gives us, like, when we did it, we figured out that few images were getting cut, few CTS were getting cropped, ellipsized, and it was not clear. So that was
Okay, okay. So these various filters within user experience enabled you to build segments not just by a typical, I would say, event or a user attribute based, but also at a metadata level, at the device parameters level. Because in your case, how you have a larger, wider user audience, right from a low, having a low end device to a very high end device, would be able to still get data on how different users having different form factors on their device utilizing your product in a way, right? This could also be, I think so helpful for your QA teams, because then they understand that whether products or UIs are being visible clearly on different form factors or other device configurations as well.
exactly.
Okay, great, great. Thanks all for sharing that insight. Now, in terms of, I would say, alerts that you consume, how have been utilizing these alerts, and how they've been helping you in overall improvement of the stability of the application.
Sure. So one specific feature I love about user experience is you can set up a mail alert for any crash or ANR. So what this does is basically whenever there is a crash that occurs, because before that you'll have to just go to Firebase, keep checking. Firebase also send you the mail with crashes, but here a mail comes in wherein it clearly says that for the user ID so and so, there's the URL, and these are the basic overview of the user. A crash happened. So I can just click on the link, go and actually see it live. What exactly happened? Where did the crash occur? Then I just forward it to the developer, and it becomes very easy to debug and solve it. So the entire time cycle basically gets reduced drastically, and
Yeah.
the entire experience is much more simpler, in the sense we don't need to keep guessing what could have gone wrong. We just look at in real time, and then it makes much more sense to debug the issue. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, very interesting. In fact, a lot of developers use Firebase Crashlytics for crash monitoring. In fact, we have even extended an integration with that, so developers can directly in Crashlytics itself start seeing session recordings of user experience. So,
That's
so,
actually a
so
very good point. If I may jump in there,
yeah,
one,
yeah, sure.
we basically had integration with Mixpanel Amplitude also earlier, wherein uh, event is triggered basically for whenever there's a session happening, and the event property has the video URL. So
Yeah,
that becomes super amazing. So now basically from the analytic tool, I can actually jump on and see the video. That is
yeah,
basically without actually opening the user experience dashboard, which I do daily in the morning. I
yeah,
can also now, whenever I'm just analyzing the funnels and the numbers, I can put in a filter saying for the those users, if for this event, basically the user experience session, I can see the URL as the event property and go see the video, which is very useful.
yeah, yeah. In fact, that has made a lot of product teams not move between tools. So that feature of user experience, which enables integration with Mixpanel and other analytics platforms. So a lot of product teams are able to directly visualize the session recordings within their analytics platform itself, rather than jumping between tools. Yeah, so that's interesting. Way that you are also using. So really love. So in Khata Book, yeah, now you have so many teams internally of the product, of engineering, design. So what is a core team today in Khata Book that uses user experience?
Sure. So since as I mentioned, Khatabook is a product first company for us, and it's again a very uncharted territory. You're building for the users. It has to be, the beauty is it has to be so simple, and simple is not easy. So that's
Yeah,
the funny part. And
yeah,
to keep it simple, basically product team alone ideating won't work. Every team, basically every member, basically the design, QA, everyone needs to have a product first approach, and that's where user experience comes in very handy, wherein our designers use this, a QA team uses it, and so when all the parts of the team basically use the user experience dashboard, we get inputs from everyone, which was maybe missed earlier, and they also get a sense of what exactly the product is doing, like in action, right? So how is the user getting
Yeah.
benefited from it? So product team definitely uses it for their domains. Within product, since we have 5 apps, we have set it up for each of those apps, and teams check it from there, the PMs. Then designers check it and to validate hypothesis, and also do the initial testing, and then go to the users and have the detailed user testing sessions. QA team use it to check the quality on different types of devices and
Yeah.
OS and languages. And yeah, that's about it.
So maybe I'd like to pitch in. I'd like to do a sales pitch to you that maybe you want to extend this user experience even to your engineering and customer support teams also, because that is another key teams that we have seen across other customers where user experience is helping engineering teams quickly debug crashes. At the same time, we've also seen a lot of support teams across customers using user experience, because the session replays really make it very easy for support teams to quickly resolve the tickets. Because many times the most important problem is to really understand what was the real problem, and when they're able to visually see what the customer had really experienced at that moment in their platform, it becomes very easy for support teams to quickly resolve customer problems. So user experience is a solution for the entire mobility team is what I would say. But Rahul, one of the most surprising things that I have also found is that while you have a lot of product teams focusing on users, getting more data about users, but there are still very less number of actually I would say teams utilizing this kind of solution to get in fact the real insights about their customers. So what do you feel, what could be the reason why the product fraternity or the design fraternity is not utilizing this data much?
Sure. So I think when I actually used this, it was like a no-brainer, saying that, hey, why is everyone not using it? This is so helpful. Without it, like, to an extent, we were blinding in the dark, like, so shooting in the dark. Sorry, we were blinded. So
Yeah.
the point is, as I said, we are like, this is something I would love to put in wherever this question comes in, is that we are visual beings, right? So
Yeah.
numbers alone doesn't give us the complete clarity. When we actually see visual stuff, things in action, that's when we get the real understanding of end to end. Now, coming to why people don't use it, like, that's actually surprising. Maybe I think it's a lack issue of awareness. People are not aware that, people know that, hey, Hotjar does this for websites, but I don't think people know that there are tools to record sessions in app.
Yeah.
There are concerns about privacy and data storage and all, the size of the video, plus impacting the network or the connectivity of the user. But actually, when we have done it at this scale, we have figured out it doesn't really impact any of these. It's super smooth, and the best part is, I was surprised there is an Indian company which does this and so well. So this was really an eye opener for me, and I was very happy to see this, because if you look at other products, mainly it's predominantly outside India, and for a small team, user experience having done this is really remarkable. And we have noticed that, and yeah, we did the complete legal check, and this is completely compliant with our policies and the GDPR, as well as, like, for example, when we did the analysis, we figured out for a 5-minute video it takes about 450 kb, which is pretty amazing. Like, so that has no impact. That is one good thing that we came out. And overall, even for users on 2G, this is not affecting them. So, and maybe that I did actually discuss with you on how is this happening, and that's when you touched upon your patented tech, wherein, and I think we don't have the time to go deeper into it, but when I actually read how user experience does it, I was pretty.
Thanks, Rahul, for sharing that. And that's where I believe somewhere that visibility or the awareness of this kind of solution for mobile apps is not there. Web, yes, as you rightly said, you have solutions around that, but mobile is something is not there. So maybe we need to increase that more visibility. And I'm sure after this webinar, more product teams would start adopting this technology in their products also. So this brings me to the next part of the key feature that you are using. That's funnels. So you, if you could help us understand, how are you really solving the retention problems? So for a app that would help us get more insights on retention overall.
Sure. And this is actually a very interesting question. And I was trying to find out the answer from a long time, wherein because retention is the holy grail, right? Nowadays, it's become very easy to acquire users, high quality users, because there are tools where you can do targeted acquisition at a very good CPI. All of that is great. Like you get
Yeah,
a lot of users.
yeah,
Everybody has a good smartphone, net, and all. But once now the users are spoiled for choices and their attention span is so less, within the first few seconds, if you don't impress them, if they don't find the value, they just abandon you right away, right? So,
yeah,
and the next step, even for the people who actually end up using, how do you actually retain them back? so
yeah,
so I actually did a Reforge course, and there basically a very interesting, very obvious and fundamental thing came up, but it was new to me. Is that retention is basically a combination of activation plus engagement plus resurrection, right? So retention is an output. We actually try to boost retention, but that cannot be increased unless you play around with the input, which are the levers, right? Which is
yeah.
activation, engagement, and resurrection. Now,
Correct.
activation is the most important bit, because what activation means is that user has understood the value of the product and they have got that wow moment, the
Yeah,
aha moment, saying that, oh wow, this actually does this, which helps me. So once the user is activated, so aha moment is part of the activation, but activation has to be defined for each product from thinking from first principles, and it has no formula that can be copy pasted, and it's actually easy when you think about, like for example, I'll share Khata book example. How what we did was, as I said, it's adding transaction is the key action. And as I mentioned, activation is 2 transactions in 2 unique days. So that basically became the first input. And if we really want to increase the retention, we need to increase activation, engagement, and resurrection. And that's where basically these funnels come in handy, in the sense that how do we actually figure out why people are dropping off, why people are not getting activated. So when we see the sessions or the replays of those users who have not completed the activation, who are dropping off before activation, we get an idea saying that, hey, maybe they got confused on the screen. And this actually happened. We were seeing a lot of users were not getting activated and hence not getting retained, because they were getting overwhelmed on the onboarding screen, on the home screen. There were 3 tabs and there were too many things. Then we cut it down, saying that at least till the time user gets activated, let's hide all the other things. Let's just focus on the core action, complete it, get activated, and then we say, hey, there are 2 more things that you could do. And that has actually worked pretty well for us.
yeah, yeah. So in fact, some of the other key ideas when we talk about retention, using funnels is, as you rightly said, defining those micro journeys of your customers, and identifying at those micro journeys the dropout areas, and deep diving them and understanding through session recordings what is happening with the customers, why they are dropping out. Now user experience funnels are able to even give you insights if dropouts are happening because of, let's say, rage clicks, maybe controls not working for a customer, getting frustrated, or he's trying to tap on certain element, it's not clickable and the user dropping out, or interacting with an element and then maybe the app just crashes. So there could be various such kind of events that get triggered in the journey of an end user, and these funnels really help you understand those qualitative insights as to what is really going wrong and why are users behaving, that the way that they are doing, why do they really behave the way that they are doing inside the
Yeah,
application. So that really
exactly.
helps to really fix those problems and improve retention inside the application. And very rightly said, that retention is an output. You cannot directly improve retention. You can't just, it's not a, like you can just pay a user and he will get retained. No,
Mhm.
it is not possible.
Yeah.
You need to optimize the overall journey at different points in the journey, and then you can actually achieve retention inside your product. Very, very well said, Rahul, on retention. Now this brings us to the later part of the session. So we'd love to hear questions from the audience on on what Rahul has shared. So we'd love to get some questions from the team, and
There are a few questions. Actually, I'll just browse
Yeah.
through them and quickly answer it in the interest of time. And I think I can see the questions here. So like
Yeah.
one question, which marketing channel has worked for Khatabook to acquire users? Again, nowadays it's pretty, it's not about the channel. So obviously we use Google, Facebook, YouTube, and all of it, and
Yeah.
also the third party affiliates. But though we have, the marketing team would be better suited to share this, but not what has really worked is not the channel per se, but the content that we actually use, right? It needs to connect with the user. So because the same channels that are available to us are available to the competitors and everyone else, and the
Yeah.
channels are really good, highly targeted, you get a very good CPI. That all is doable. What we really need to focus on is the content. Are you actually talking to the user and actually solving the pain point that the user has? So focus more on that. But yeah, channels we use mainly predominantly Google and Facebook. Yeah.
There's
Other
another
question.
question for you.
Sure.
Maybe what are some of the ways which Khatabook keeps activated users engaged? So
Okay. Oh yes. Perfect. So lucky. So we are a utility app, right? So luckily for us, and that's the beauty of Khatabook, which is, I'm not saying because I work here, in general also, having seen products like I've worked with Hike and a lot of really good apps, social apps, and all of it. Here you don't really need to give a bait to get the user back. If you solve the core use case of the user, they actually come back. And but having said that, obviously they get distracted. There are so many things. So how do you capture the attention with high quality push notifications? Then we have sticky push notification, which makes user add an entry right from the notification drawer. We added a widget where people could add a widget by click of a button within app, and via the widget they could add transactions. So that's working out well for us. Also, we tried out something called quiz at a daily, our fixed hour slot, 12 to 4, and it actually gave us good spike. People were coming back at that time to play the quiz. So because though it's a business app, but people do love to have some fun, and some during the afternoon time they would love to spend some time away from the business, and so that worked for us. Any other
So,
question?
so there's a question which talks about is there a privacy concern here? Do I need explicit permission from the user? So maybe I'll take that question, Rahul. Maybe I'd love to also understand from you how you have communicated this to your users. So when it comes to privacy, yes, there is a big talk about, and that's privacy is one of the key concerns for a lot of business today, right? And when it comes to user experience, I would say no, it is not an impact to the end user's privacy. The reason is because we are residing inside the user's app only. So let's say if we are integrated inside Khatabook app, we do not understand or we do not know if that particular user who has installed that app is using any other apps, or what is that he's using on his device, which other apps is he using, which websites he's browsing. No, we don't know anything outside Khatabook app. And we have other capabilities also, like masking, where sensitive information that the user is inputting, or there could be sensitive information that is showcased to the user on the app, those are masked. So while watching session replays, you cannot visually see or cannot unmask any such sensitive areas or sensitive elements inside the application. Plus, we also have built-in encryptions in place, so our data at rest as well as in transit are always encrypted, which further ensures and assures that your data is secure and the privacy of the end user is not breached. Now, when it comes to performance, yes, I would say we are a third-party product which is embedded inside any app, so we will do consume some resources. However, there is a very, very negligible impact on the performance that your end user will never notice it. So your end user does not notice any kind of issues, or I would say not issues, but I would say any kind of performance or resource consumption happening on his device while he's using the app. So Rahul, maybe you can also share some insights on how do you typically communicate to your users about using third party technologies inside a product.
Sure. I think the best way to ensure you're compliant is you work with high quality partners, right? So that is what we follow, and whenever we partner with anyone, we just do our homework and ensure that the the partners are compliant and they have good clients already. And in, for example, in our case, User Experience already had top banks in India use it, and we had a run through the legal team. It was totally compliant, and the most important thing is all the important fields, right? Private, the confidential fields are masked automatically, so we anyway can't see it, and no one gets access to it. So that ensures that there's no private data being consumed by anyone. So yeah.
Okay. Okay. And and what about performance? Do you see any impact on the performance of your application when your users are using it?
This was actually very surprising. And everyone by default or the intuitively we feel that hey, if a video is being recorded, it would drain the battery or drain
Yeah.
bandwidth and all of those right things. But when we actually measured it didn't really make an impact, and that was very surprising. And that's as I mentioned earlier also, that is what something really impressed. And that's when I read through your tech in detail and figured out how you're doing it, and was totally convinced. So it was yeah, that's really a remarkable achievement.
Thanks. So there was one question that came up is around, there could be a lot of videos generated on a daily basis, sessions basically, that are tracking. So so any thoughts on which is the best way to ensure coverage on all videos? So maybe I'll give a brief on this, on how you can handle that in User Experience, and I will request you, Rahul, to share on how you are utilizing this data in terms of a process to decide what to track, right? So within User Experience, there is a provision where you can set rules, where you can define on the fly which user sessions you want to track. So when we talk about user sessions you want to track, we track a lot of other parameters also, not just the session recording. Session recording is just one I would say data point of the entire data set that User Experience tracks. And with that recording rule, you can define on the fly which journeys that you want to track, maybe based on an events that the users are doing. Like for example, you want to track those users who are doing an add to cart, who do a checkout, but are not making the payments or not converting. So User Experience will basically get you only those sessions that match this rule, and you will be only getting that particular data. So there are a lot of filters available where you can do did not kind of a condition, you can do an is not condition, you can track events, you can record basis screens, you can record basis I would say user properties, you can record basis OS version, network, device, app version, multiple data points that are available. So Rahul, when it comes to Khatabooks app, how, so you have, as you mentioned, you have a massive user base, right? And now for this massive user base, how do you really ensure coverage, or how do you really go about deciding which sessions you want to really capture, which user sessions you want to track?
Sure. And since we have a diverse user base, keeping, say, for example, 1% sampling does the trick. The reason being, out of every 100 sessions, one is captured, and that by default naturally covers all of it. But having said that, the other few things that we do is, say, also at the scale it becomes too many, even 1%. So we set an upper cap on a daily basis that we do. Then basically the best part is you can drill down really deep, in the sense that we could say users only the users who did this event in the last X days or Y days, X number of times, basically all combinations. We said those can be actually set up as a recording rule, and we only track that. But as I said, we use it predominantly in two ways. One, just leave it at 1% sampling and upper cap. Check it every day in the morning as a routine hygiene sampling, and you learn a lot by looking at random sessions totally. That is for learning on making sure everything is working fine. Second is basically whenever there's a product launch and whenever there's an issue with any specific feature, we can say that hey, now forget everything, record only the sessions that satisfy these conditions, which can be on event based, user property based, location, device, model. So yeah, that's pretty flexible.
Okay. So there is, we'll take one more question that comes up, which is saying, what is a minimum number of sessions required for heat maps to be reliable, right? So any thoughts over here, Rahul? Like, how do you really make sure that how many sessions you track that ensures that you have collected enough data points for your heat map data
Sure.
data.
I think uh, I think we were having the discussion, and I figured out 5% of the user's minimum clicking on a point is when it gets accepted inside the heat map, and
Yeah,
10% is recommended, wherein 10% of people clicking on some spot, it actually is uh, considered as a tap on the heat map. Now, basically, it's simple, right? Heat map, it's hot and cold. You don't need to drill down deep. You have to zoom out a bit and see how is the masses looking at the screen. The screen is same, the users are different.
yeah,
So it becomes very evident that few spots are the ones which are getting the maximum attention. So you need to ensure whether while designing, was that the intention, was that the intended behavior, or is it different from what you had intended? Like, for example, in our case, the CTA was at the bottom, where people are clicking, that's great, but they were also clicking on that header where it was not actually a clickable area. So that was a very good insight for us. So so you not really go deep down into the numbers. I think zoom out and look at it. The number already user experience takes care of it. So yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So we basically, Rahul, use a weighted data. So basis the areas where users interact the most, we know which areas have the most weightage. So automatically the most weighted areas get highlighted immediately, and the very least do not get highlighted. So this also ensures that a lot of noise gets eliminated from the data that we are presenting to the to you, so that you are able to focus on the most important data points of your application. So another question that we have over here is, can we add rules for tracking some particular session on dashboard of user experience? Yes, you can do that. You can define rules that would enable you to track sessions. And these rules can be based on, as I said earlier, you can define it based on a user. You can even say that, okay, which user you want to track inside your application. So you can do that. You can define rules based on events and a combination of events also, or you can even do combinations of events along with screens and devices and OS version. So it's a very very flexible recording rule engine that user experience has built that would enable you to capture a lot of more insights based on the journeys that you're trying to optimize. And over here, I would like to also share some insight which I had got from a customer of ours who is using the solution. So they typically go by themes that they're trying to optimize in a certain month or a certain day or a certain week. It could be themes towards optimizing the onboarding journey, so where they would define rules for only recording the onboarding journey, and basis that they would collect the data and start analyzing it. While they're analyzing, they're collecting data for some different set of journeys. So you can keep on rotating such similar models, your rules that you are wanting to track. We also have customers who are just focusing on stability problems like crashes and ANRs, and are only focusing on that data point to track those elements inside the application, not tracking other data points. So that rule engine is very very flexible, by which you can really decide what you want to record and how you want to record the data points. So any other questions that we have around privacy? We answered that. Cohorts, yes, we answered that also. Minimum sessions required. Yeah, as Rahul mentioned, 5 to 10% should be a good number of sessions based on the volume of users, or you can certainly use recording rules so that you will only get heat maps for those recording rules inside our application. So yeah, so we have a couple of more minutes before we end the webinar. Any further questions that we have?
Also, would love to share.
Yeah,
Uh, Basically, this has been more of us talking to them, basically via the questions, but pretty good questions. These are the exact questions we had within our company when we were exploring this, and I really hope this would have helped you get answers to a few of those, or get conviction, or actually go deeper and explore now with more focused questions. And apart from this, like in general, I basically what I love the most is learning and though we are solving for a very unique user base, would love to interact with more of you folks to understand what you are building in your companies, in your products. Feel free to reach out on LinkedIn or any other place. Would love to connect, and any questions or any suggestions, insights, please feel free to share.
Thanks, Rahul. I'm certain that interacting with you, fellow product, I would say managers would really get insights about product management and how you are tackling user issues, or improving the overall experience for your customers. Okay, just last question. We are almost at just 1 minute that we have. So Rahul, while you have answered this, maybe we'd love to again ask from you, who are the user base of Khatabook? So
Sure.
you have answered this, but yeah, we'd love to hear it again from you.
Sure, I don't mind repeating it all day long because it's a very unique product,
Yeah,
very unique user base. It's a very interesting journey in the sense that so Khatabook, as I said, started or had a humble beginning. It actually was built by an electrical shop owner's son, and so that's why it was very clear. It was actually the user is all the backbone of India, right? The small and medium businesses, the grocery shop owners, hardware, electrical, mobile shop owners. So all the shops plus the service people, the agents, all of them who have ever basically has a customer or a supplier, they basically use this app. It's a digital ledger app, very simple to use. You note down your transactions, you note down your receivables, and send them, nudge them with reminders, download easy to consume reports. So that's anyway the entry into the rabbit hole. The real challenge or the exciting journey ahead would be building an operating system for these user base, for this user base. That is, how does a shopkeeper or a merchant now bring his entire business online? Can he now order from his distributor directly from Khatabook? Can he manage his daily sales and expenses here? Can he see more detailed insights and statistics saying that, hey, last 1 month your sale of say this specific product has increased, so focus more, or do some more place it ahead in your shop, or this is not moving, don't order it in the next store. So this is where we want to go ahead and help people with insights, and marry tech with the data they have, and make their life better.
wow, great, great. That's very interesting insight, Rahul. And so we are at the end of the session. So Rahul, I would really like to thank you for taking time and sharing your experiences, your learnings with all of us. We really look forward for more such sessions with you. And I would also like to thank the entire audience who were patiently hearing the our conversation. And I'm sure you have got about a lot of learnings from this conversation. In fact, there are more questions coming in, but we would certainly reach out to you, and help you answer those questions. But thank you for now, and have a nice evening. Thanks, Rahul.
Sorry, I was on mute. Thanks, English. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
This was fun.
Yeah, same here. Thank you. Bye.